All right, welcome back, Truth Seeker. We talked about at the end of this Wednesday's TFR episode looking for headlines of death Friday, November 8th, and it was a day full of death in the headlines, and it's carried through the weekend. So I want to talk about this weekend of numerous deaths in the headlines, the consistent pattern. And somebody just notified me before I jumped on that there's even another death in the headlines today that I wasn't aware of. Bernard Tyson, the chairman and CEO of Kaiser Permanente. So I haven't looked at this yet, but we will do it in real time after we cover the material I planned to discuss. Okay, so Friday, November 8th. This was one of the top stories. This screenshot's from Friday, November 8th. Body of missing Clark Atlanta University student is found. Of course, this is a story that has to do with death. It came November 8th, 118. November 8th, 2019. Not only was it 118, but it was a date with 38 numerology as well. 11 plus 8 plus 19, 38. Death using the alphabetic order is 38. Death using the cipher, known as Jewish gematria, which pays tribute to the Latin order of the English letters of the alphabet, many of which come from Latin. Death sums to 118 in that cipher. And again, if you're new here, we've talked about death and these two numbers so often over the years. Prince is a shining example, a death that we saw coming before it happened. His death synced up with Vanity, who died by the numbers, his ex-girlfriend, who died the day of the 58th Grammys. And again, if you are new here, you might want to pause this video. Of course, we're a live stream right now. If you're watching the live stream, just do it after. But look up these two songs. Look up the song Murder by Numbers by the band The Police. Again, The Police are always writing nothing suspicious in these suspicious deaths in the media. The song Murder by Numbers, it's about how killing's the sport of the elite. It's as simple as ABC 1, 2, 3, which is a reference to this Kabbalistic code of gematria. There's an evil side to Kabbalah, which is about hurting people. In Kabbalah's Book of Formation, it's stated that God created the world with letters, numbers, and words. So it's easy to see that certain people in this world, they believe they are gods and they are entitled to do the things that, would be considered God's work, such as taking the lives of others. And anyhow, we were looking at this date because it had these death numbers, and it was a day full of death in the headlines, as we'll get to. So this young woman, her body's found on that day. And what stood out about the name of this school, Clark Atlanta, it equals 33 and 84. What a perfect name for the location. Atlanta's on the 33rd parallel and the 84th meridian. Masonry also equals 33 and 84. Of course, Masonry is based in this code of Kabbalah. Masonry is very much a death cult. The young woman's name was Alexis Crawford, which sums to 158 like Freemasonry. Don't forget that Jesuits 84, and the Jesuits were formed on 15/8, August 15th, once upon a time. Again, the Jesuits and the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry have a lot of history in this nation. If you write out Clark Atlanta University, it also sums to 147 like Freemason, like police. So just makes one wonder. And November 8th, 2019, it did have date numerology of 38. It also had date numerology of 58. 11 plus 8 plus 20 plus 19. 58. Freemasonry 58. Rosicrucian 58. Secret Society 58. Again, King James, the Freemason and Rosicrucian, unexpectedly died at age 58. Not by accident. And like we were just saying, once upon a time, Vanity died before the 58th Grammys. Her death was encoded with numbers that foreshadowed a fateful outcome for Prince, which followed soon after. Prince died on April 21st, 2016, 4/21. He wrote the song 33 years earlier, I Would Die For You. He spelled it with the number 4, the letter U. For you. Use the 21st letter, 4/21. 4/21, April 21st, the day he would die 33 years after recording the song. So, anyway, one of many stories of death. There's a lot more I could say about this story, but I just want to focus on the relationship of the stories of death on this date. Prior to that headline, earlier on August 11th, Buffalo Wild Wings worker dies after exposure to a cleaning agent. And they say the cleaning agent was called Super 8. Notice poisoning equals 118. Poisoning 118. Death 118. Homicides 118. And Buffalo Wild Wings was also in the headlines earlier this week for an incident involving racism. So it's strange that Buffalo Wild Wings made the top headlines for 2 negative stories within a week. Makes me wonder what's going on with that. But again, story of poisoning from a cleaning agent by an employee on 118. You just got to say, what are the odds? What are the odds? Later, Friday, November 8th, you get the story. And look at the headline. The Tale of Jolly Joseph. Is this even a real story? You know how we were just talking about 147 a second ago with the Clark Atlanta University? I'll just type that in real quick. Whoops, let me type it right. Clark Atlanta University. You see the 147? This number shows up all the time. Again, it's a big number with the Freemasons. Jolly Joseph, the name of this woman, 147.48. Freemasons, 147.48 as well. Anyway, you pay attention, you see how the same numbers just show up again and again and again and again and again. Police is 147 in the Jewish gematria. But anyway, you get the story. Mom, churchgoer, neighbor. CNN even has a typo. Or never mind, I'm just reading with this like, never mind. Neighbor, suspected killer. Jolly Joseph. And what do they show for this? That she poisoned her victims, right? And like we just talked about, the day starts with the story of poisoning at Buffalo Wild Wings. You have these other headlines of death. Poisonings 118, homicides 118, deaths 118. Again, this was also the date with 38 numerology. And she was born in... Anyway. Also in the headlines that day, Pat Sajak undergoes emergency surgery and Vanna White has to host Wheel of Fortune. Just remember, when we end up reading about the demise of Pat Sajak, it'll likely be synced up with this emergency surgery story from the 118 date. Pat Sajak had just turned 73 years old days ago. This story came 13 days after his birthday, or his 14th day of his age. Sacrifice is 73, ritual sacrifice is 73, ends 14. So I think this story is foreshadowing that the end is near for Pat Sajak. They emphasize Wheel of Fortune, which sums to 74, like Masonic, like occult, like killing, like gematria. Remember, there's another song out there. The lyrics aren't nearly as clear, but the song's called Gematria, the Killing Name. If you want to read those lyrics, they're a little bit crazy, but again, it fits right in with the song Murder by Numbers. And there's also the Agatha Christie novel, The ABC Murders. My channel was taken down where I covered the release of that and why Amazon put out that story the day they did. And what's encoded in the title, the ABC Murders, it has the same gematria as murder itself. But again, what are the odds of all of this on 118? And I guess I can just punch in Wheel of Fortune real quick. Wheel of Fortune, which they emphasize. The 74 in the most pure cipher, the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology. Again, just using the alphabetic order, gematria 74, killing 74, Masonic 74, occult 74, so on. So, that was from 118. Now, this story wasn't from August 11th. This story actually broke today. It's about a 13-year-old Broadway star, Laurel Griggs, who died unexpectedly from a massive asthma attack. And massive asthma attack. And notice asthma attack is 118. Asthma attack is also 206 like sacrifice. But notice the day that she died, November 5th. November 5th. Let me type in Masonic again. See the 74 when you run the alphabetic order in reverse, 115. Look at killing. Killing's the same in 3 out of the 4 ciphers as Masonic. You'll notice the 74, the 115, and the 43. Killing. And remember, if you use Jewish gematria, killing's even 115 in that cipher as well. And sacrifice is 206 in that cipher. So, 13-year-old girl, Broadway actress, dies from an asthma attack. And her name, Laurel Griggs, equals 64 like kill. The name Griggs alone is 67 like blood sacrifice. Again, asthma attack, 118. They waited until this weekend, the weekend that began with November 8th, 118, to release the news. Asthma attacks also 206 like sacrifice. Again, you listen to a song like Murder by Numbers, where it talks about like how killing is a sport, it's what the elite do. You start to realize how things like this can be done, you know. That certain people think and believe and behave this way. And for all the people who say, well, why would you ever do this? Again, I mean, this knowledge is biblical. It's a concept in the Bible, you know, making sacrifices for God, sacrificing a child for God. The whole Christian religion is based on this belief. And again, if you believe in knowledge is power, you do got to wonder where the name Jesus comes from, since that's not the name from the Bible, it's Yeshua. But notice Jesus is 74, cross is 74, Messiah is 74, gospel is 74, Jesus spoke in parables, riddles, just like Gematria's riddles. Parables 74, you know, even Lucifer 74, Jesus and Lucifer both referred to as morning star. You know, again, killing 74, Jesus on the cross. The Egyptian word for cross is ankh, which is 74. I forget what the Greek word is for cross, but it also sums to 74. So, showbiz, it is dangerous. And yeah, so, you know, just again, another 118 in the headlines the weekend of November 8th. Russian professor found dead in Moika River. This is out of Russia. And he taught at St. Petersburg State University. 118. What are the odds? This story from this weekend. He was found dead in the river Saturday, November 9th. Is it possible that he died on November 8th? Of course it is. Again, remember, Freemasonry is worldwide. And in light of him being found in the Moika River, he was a historian. Something interesting about the word historian, which we'll get to. But Moika River's 58 like historian. Remember, Freemasonry's 58, Rosicrucian's 58, Secret Society's 58. They say the victors write the history books. Don't forget the word history alone is 42 like Freemason. I'll just show you. History, 42. Freemason, 42. Notice the word historian is 113. And again, 113 is the number of deception, right? Baba Kamal 113A. Dishonest, not true, fiction, bullshit, and a whole lot longer list is all 113. And I think a lot of people realize at a young age that history and what you're being taught is obviously bullshit. It doesn't make any sense. So I find it fitting that historian has that 113 gematria. I personally, as an educator, think that history should just be done away with because it's a bunk subject, since all that is taught is bullshit in history books. I think what students should learn in school is critical thinking, reading, writing, and mastery of basic mathematics that people actually use. You know, you go up on the street and ask someone what 21 divided by 3 is, they probably got to take 10 minutes to figure out the answer. It should be automatic, 7. But again, school, what it does is it, especially at this day and age, it rushes young children through a diversity of topics. I mean, they're like introducing geometry in 2nd grade now before children even learn to count. It's just, anyway, school should focus on core things that people can use. And a subject like history doesn't need to be taught in school. If people want to research the past, there's other ways to do that, because the history lessons you get in school is all about indoctrination and learn about manifest destiny and how the great man Christopher Columbus came over and realized he was better than the brown people and helped lay the roots to set up this very free nation where we're all so free and brave. not a single part of that is true. Anyway, this man who died, his name is Oleg Sokolov, gematria of 149, also like Moika River. So, it just makes you wonder. They say he was an expert in French history, and what's French history? Well, that has a lot to do with the Jesuits and the Scottish Rite, and of course Scottish is 113. They say on his love to give us the continual negative programming. The media is always dark and depressing, and that is possible, but I do think this cabal, I do think they are a pack of killers. So, yesterday in the news, you had the death of a boxer, a 27-year-old. Of course, the 27 Club, the infamous club. If you've read my book, the longest chapter in it, Murder by Numbers, chapter's over 150 pages long, talks about nearly every member of the infamous 27 Club. The word ritual equals 27. I think this is why so many young entertainers die at age 27. And again, it's not always that the people are 27. Sometimes they die 27 days from their birthday. They're dead on a date with 27 numerology. But here's what stood out about this. I wanted to look up his boxing career since he was a boxer, and I saw that he had 21 fights under his belt. Remember, 21 is a special number. The word Saturn in the most pure cipher equals 21, which makes so much sense because 21 is the sixth triangular number. If you add 1 through 6 together, it equals 21. And Saturn's the sixth planet from the sun. So this guy has 21 fights under his belt when he dies. And he supposedly died after taking a punch to the stomach at practice, which really doesn't make any sense. I mean, he's a professional boxer. He's going to die at practice after getting hit in the stomach. I wonder if somebody put something in his water, you know what I mean? But he has a leap year birthday, this guy. He's born on February 29th, right? So his true birthday day comes only once every 4 years. Most people with a February 29th birthday celebrate their birthday on February 28th. You can also celebrate it on March 1st. If you count from February 28th to the day of his death, it's 254 days later. If you count from March 1st to the day of his death, it would also be a span of 254 days. It would be 253 days after, or a span of 254. So either way, you get to 254 days. And in the English extended cipher, time is 254, and the phrase Saturn, the keeper of time, equals 254. And Saturn's connected to death and judgment. Saturn's also 119 in the cap-sensitive cipher, Francis Bacon. He died on 11/9 on a Saturday, the day of the week named after Saturn. Again, Saturn connected to death and judgment. The astrological symbol for Saturn, the scythe, that's where the Grim Reaper symbolism comes from. So, and again, Saturn's also 21, and he died after 21 fights. His name was Dwight Ritchie, which sums to 73, like sacrifice, like ritual sacrifice. 73 is the 21st prime. So, something tells me that was not an accident. And the Marlboro Man died. And you see how they emphasize Marlboro Man and Bob? Here's why they did that. Marlboro Man equals 67, like blood sacrifice. Seen a lot of that number this year because 67 is the 19th prime and it's 2019. At the beginning of the year, I said it might be a bad year for bombs. There were a bunch of bombs dead at the beginning of the year. Bob equals 19. 67, the 19th prime, so they emphasize Marlboro Man and Bob. And Bob's easy. Like, again, learn these ciphers in your head. B's the second letter, O's the 15th. So 2 plus 15 plus 2 is obviously 19. But, again, just show you. So, the Marlboro Man is dead. And couldn't find his I couldn't find his birthday. But what stood out about his death is they were sure to show you that he died in Colorado. And they don't always report where a person dies. In fact, they usually don't. But Colorado is the 38th state in order of statehood, and Colorado equals 38. So they were sure to include that detail. Colorado also equals 83 like murder, like how the song Murder by Numbers came out in 1983. Also equals 43 like killing. Like gematria, like Masonic. I take it back. Gematria doesn't equal 43, but Masonic and killing do. So, couldn't find a lot of information on him, but I did see what they coded in the headlines. The same old blood sacrifice numbers. And they said he was 90. They also pointed out that he never smoked. They also pointed out that he died on November 3rd, 113. That date can also be written 3/11 like 311, which is the 64th prime number, and kill equals 64. So I was lazy with that decode. There's probably more to it, but again, this weekend of death. And on August 11th, another 118 date, recall there was a religious incident at Temple Mount, a location we were watching for that specific date. Tear gas was fired on the people praying on Temple Mount on that day, which was an important Muslim holy day, and also the Jewish holy day to remember the destruction of the two temples. Anyway, tear gas, 118. Remember, tear gas was fired on Temple Mount on the 118 date. It was also fired in Hong Kong on the 118 date, August 11th. And now in Iraq, you had a religious-inspired protest, and they had tear gas fired on them on November 8th. There's also the day leaving 53 days left in the year. Religion's 53. So you're going to have to keep an eye on this going forward. Tear gas and 118 dates in the headlines. But again, like I said, just before I began this live stream, somebody let me know that there was another death today. And I see Bernard Tyson died at age 60. Okay, so that has me thinking about something. If you saw my video on the release of the Harriet Tubman movie, the Friday before last, that was on the day leaving 60 days left in the year, and Harriet Tubman equals 60, the N-word equals 60. If you watch that video, I showed how the front page of CNN that morning was a story about a woman who was called the N-word on the same day that Harriet Tubman came out. So, notice Harriet Tubman, just going to put it here, 60. Look at what happens when I write the N-word. See the 60? You see also the 42? This man's name is Tyson. Tyson is 42. Think about the 42-1 odds when Buster Douglas beat Tyson. They made a documentary about it on ESPN. You had the story of the accused rape by the lieutenant governor of Virginia. The woman who accused, her name was Tyson. That was another 42 related story. But, so anyway, this gentleman's name is Tyson, which sums to 42. He's dead at 60. And today, the day he's dead, November 10th, 2019, 11 plus 10 plus 20 plus 19 equals 60. So he's dead on a date with 60 numerology at age 60. And let's see how it lines up with his birthday. His birthday is January 20th. He's November 10th. So let's see. See how those dates go together. January 20th, 2019 to today. 294 days. Notice he's dead 42 weeks after his birthday. You see that? Tyson is dead 42 weeks after his birthday at age 60 on a date with 60 numerology. Isn't it sick? Bernard J. Tyson, his full title. Let's see what the gematria is of that. 165, 57, 78. Well, those are some familiar numbers. Look at Scottish Rite. Kaiser Permanente. That's what I had for insurance when the ringing began in my ear January 2006. My ear's been ringing nonstop since January 2006. And I'll never forget how that all went down. I went to a Kaiser Permanente office, And there wasn't a doctor to look at me. There was a physician's assistant. And she looked in my ear at the stethoscope because I told her my ear had been ringing since early that day. It had been ringing for like 5 straight hours when I went into the office. I'd never had my ear ring like that before. And all I'd done that day was work. I was working in an office, typing up a report when it started. And a woman looked in my ear with the stethoscope and she goes, I think you just got some fluid in your ear. And I said, well, what would cause that? She goes, well, have you been sick anytime recently? I said, well, I had a small cold like 3 or 4 months ago. She goes, it's probably that then. I said, really? A cold from 3 or 4 months ago? She goes, yeah, it can happen. I was like, She goes, if it's still ringing in 48 hours, come back. So it was, so I came back, and this time I actually saw a doctor, and he looked in my ear. He goes, I don't see any fluid. And I said, yeah, he goes, it's too bad we didn't catch this sooner because we got this experimental drug that can knock out the ringing sometimes if we catch it right away, but he said it's not proven to work after you get out of that 24-hour window. I was like, oh, that's great. So he's like, you want to try it? I was like, well, if it'll make the ringing stop, I guess I'll try it. And I forget how much those pills costed, too much, but they didn't do anything. And here we are. How many years ago was that now? Man, it's crazy to think. It's like in January it'll be 14 years of nonstop ringing, but Kaiser Permanente, not a big fan. That was the last time I ever went to the doctor, too. Well, I went back in and they did a bunch of blood work and tried to scare me with all this stuff, and then I never went back again. Anyway, it's my Kaiser Permanente story. So, sick stuff. What's Kaiser Permanente equal anyway? $96 like Freemason. I'm just going to have to call this a coincidence with the 174 and 75. Wouldn't surprise me. But those are familiar numbers. Whoops, I can type. Remember, the New York Times pledged the New World Order to Jews on a date with 75 numerology at the end of World War II. So, No Less News did a video on the New World Order on the day leaving 75 days left in the year. If you don't think that pretender's taking orders. So, yeah, that was it. The weekend of death. Well, I shouldn't say that's it. The weekend's not over. We might get more headlines yet. And I won't be surprised if more stories roll out over the course of the week about people who died on Friday, November 8th. Because like you see, in stories like this, they release it a week after the fact. He died November 3rd. The news comes out November 9th. And, in light of them saying he died on November 3rd, 113, that's also the day leaving 58 days left in the year. Again, Freemasonry, 58, Secret Society. So, I think that's all I got to present for right now. It's not, I don't have earwax I don't get much earwax buildup. The tinnitus is from I don't know what, but I know earwax candles aren't going to be the solution, so. Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, appreciate everyone in the chat. Thanks for tuning in. And any thoughts on the Borderline Bar anniversary? Well, I covered that. The work's still on my blog if you want to go back and look at it. The channel's not up anymore, but the work on the blog's still there. So that was all synced up with the Vegas incident. But yeah, we'll leave it there for now, Truth Seeker. We'll be back when the next news story worth exposing comes out. Until next time.